Hello, everyone. Welcome to Savvy Women of Social Media and our expert interview series. I am Michelle, and I'm the owner of Savvy Social Media. And today we are with Emily Kendel, and she is the owner, operator, and business coach of Spa Project Consulting. Spa Project teaches and facilitates. I can't talk today. Facilitates sales strategies specifically on how to make a killer sales event to medical spas so that they can grow their businesses at the pace that they want. Medical spa owners that feel stuck in the growth of their business shouldn't have to wait to scale just because they weren't taught the marketing and sales skills they need to run their businesses. Emily has 20 plus years experience in the beauty industry. She began her career as a single mother, esthetician, and makeup artist working on productions like fashion magazine photo shoots, TV commercials, and a few independent films alongside working with clients in the salon and spa. Emily eventually opened her own beauty boutique and spa and fell in love with business. Eventually, she sold her business to a medical spa and became the COO. In just under 3 years, she and her team grew this medical spa into becoming a multi-million-dollar business. It was an incredible experience. Now she is inspired to help others that are going through the itch to scale their medical spas too. Emily loves spending time with her husband and 5 children and loves reading, cooking, gardening, and traveling. Welcome, Emily.
You?
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about 5 savvy strategies to help grow our business, to market our business, everything like that. Between the two of us, we have a lot of experience in being business owners. So, what is the one of your biggest failures as a business owner? Let's just dive right in, shall we?
No, yeah, absolutely. So, I used to think it was when my business failed and I came to the point where I needed to make a decision on either closing it, trying to sell it. It just wasn't, this was my first business. It wasn't doing what it needed to do for my family financially. And it was either, put more money invested into it or let's close the doors. And I thought that closing the doors, whether it was selling or just, whatever that looked like, was an ultimate failure to me because this was my other baby. I mean, I went to that location like it was my apartment, this was my home away from home and everything I had ever done. I just felt so accomplished by having this place. And later on, it's been many years since that. And I've realized the biggest failure I had was not trusting myself. And
I think
along
we
the,
all have that problem, though.
yeah. And it, and every now and then it creeps up again and, it tries to attack me.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm aware, like there were major decisions that I made along the way that had I believed in my intuition and my know-how and my knowledge more than I did, I would have made better decisions, but I didn't trust myself to do it. And so that really, was hard to accept, and it took a long time to figure that one out. But yeah,
What made you want to be a business owner?
the struggles that I had in my business, it just kind of it opened this whole new world to me. Because during that process, like when I started out, I worked for somebody else. They handed me a lot of clients. I was really good at it and successful and um, then decided to do it on my own. And when I took that leap, I didn't have any mentors. I
Mhm.
didn't have family members who were business experienced. My husband at the time was not a businessman. I just didn't have the support that I needed, or the tools that I needed to figure out, marketing, just all of those pieces that help you run your business day to day of operations. And once I started really looking into that, reading books, I know on maternity leave with my fourth child, I I mean, I spent so many hours on YouTube watching, like how to do Excel, like and so I just really started learning more about business, and it opened up other avenues, and I just fell in love with it. And I wanted to learn everything, read every book. I finally got a mentor, business coach, different things like that.
So with that, because I think a lot of us are in the same boat when we start our business. I know I was too. I didn't know anybody who had their own business 12, 13 years ago. How did you find your mentor and what made you two click?
Well, okay, I had two. Um, One ended up being, you know, it was my ex-husband's aunt. And I knew that she and her husband were pretty, well to do. And she was in business. And they had made some good financial decisions in their life. And I was like, is it really, at the time, I didn't know anybody doing well in their lives either. And if I did, I was too scared to talk to them. So I remember reaching out to them just for some financial advice, because I was thinking in the lines of, I need financial advice to help me figure out this math problem, okay, with money. And it ended up turning into a relationship where she was a vice president of a very big, well-known company, um, and just kind of took me under her wing. And we started meeting weekly for coffee to talk about business and my business and different things. And she just showed me how to look at things differently. And I just loved it. At the same time, I kind of reached out to the community and was looking for some women's networking groups. Um, and through that, you know, attending one workshop after this, and I eventually met a business coach. And at the time, I couldn't really afford the services, but it ended up being like a pro bono thing. And I felt like I got lucky. I'm like, somebody's going to teach me. And I just remember following up with thank you notes and, please anybody, I'm eager to learn. And, that's kind of how it got started. And just kind of went back and forth.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wound up finding a mentor as well and working with a business coach. And excuse my kitty cat in the background. She's
Well, it's okay.
meowing. I'm surprised she's not jumping on the desk yet. But so yeah, I wound up finding a mentor who took me under her wing and just saw the potential that I had that I didn't see. And like you, I didn't trust myself. How did you, and like you said, I agree with you, it still creeps up to this day. Am I doing the right thing? All of this. How did you learn to trust yourself? What did you do? And what do you do now when you don't trust yourself that little bit?
Well, so what did I do? And even what am I still doing? I just yesterday I was cleaning out my office, and I found some notebooks
Hmm.
uh, of some of like our meeting notes that I would have when I was running the spa. And I was like, why, because I'm throwing out, trying to clean out, and I'm reading these notes, and it's talking about, sales strategies, and I'm trying to coach my team, like different things to do. And I'm like, oh my God, I did already do this. I'd forgotten my own, what I'm teaching and preaching now. And I'm like, yeah. And so it was a reminder, like, yeah, that is what I was doing. That is how I helped them so much, and I have to go back and read my notes. That, that's one way. And then having a support system, having, my content project manager, she helps me with that as well. She'll read something that I've written, and she just reminds me, like, gosh, you helped me in my own business, or it's other people that help me. And then for myself, it's when I go back and read things that I've done, I guess, like logging and maybe even journaling, some things. Um,
So with your failure, what was one of your biggest successes?
Okay. So I would say when I was working at the spa, there was a kind of a turning point with the business owner, and she was ready to for some extra help. And so I remember over the course of a year and a half, we grew her cash flow from $11,000 in the bank to over $300,000 in the bank after bills are paid. And I just that to me that was a huge accomplishment because in the beginning we were like, how are we going to do this? Payroll's, $40,000 every couple of weeks, what and it was really big. And then having in the past sales events and just seeing that, fall into play. We had a $200,000 sales event one time. And, I mean, that was incredible over the course of a day, a few extra phone calls trickling in the next day. I mean, that was just huge. Even the smaller, not every one of the events are going to be that large, but I mean, it was just a great feeling. And then I guess my biggest thing is all my kids, a mom of 5.
Yeah, God bless you.
Yeah.
I think that's the first thing I said when we first started talking. We met on Alignable, and I'm like, you would put busy mom of 5. I'm like, oh my God, how does she do it? I'm only a mom of 1, and I'm struggling some days.
Yeah, I don't, every day is not peachy and I
Yeah.
don't do a great job every day, but I think they're all really great kids and
Yeah.
they're all in different places in their life and they age from 2 to 18 and it's a lot of fun, but it's very rewarding and they teach me, especially my older 2 when I was a single mom with them, I was working for them. I wanted them to have a great life, and so I pushed harder, and I want to teach them that if you wanted to go after something, you can, and you might have to be strategic about what you're doing, but go after your dreams. I don't ever want them to think I didn't do that,
Yeah. So I guess I don't have to ask your why. Because it's funny how a lot of people are just into business just to do something or just just to have money. But for certain people, it's for you, it's for your kids, it's for me, it's for my son, and for myself to prove to myself that I can do it because, I have health issues that I why I started my business to begin with, and I still struggle. And, then I think about, well, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah,
And, I didn't work my business for a couple of years in a row recently. And now that I'm working it again, I miss it.
yeah.
So I know I'm in the right spot. So for you, why is it, we'll talk about strategies for all businesses in a minute, but why is it medical spas for you?
Well, I started out wandering around the earth as a 19-year-old, not really sure what I'm doing with my life. College just, I went, it wasn't for me. And I had a friend who was a massage therapist, and she would always say, "Hey, Emily, I need a model, to practice this new treatment on. Will you come to the spa?" And like, it's like, yeah, I didn't grow up with spas. That wasn't like a thing that we did ever, and so I it became something that I got to do every now and then, and I was introduced to it and thought, wow, this is really kind of a cool thing. And got introduced to an esthetician at the spa, and I just decided, I'm going to go check out the school, seeing what it's all about. And before I knew it, I was signed up and getting ready to start class, so I went and got my esthetician license. It took me a little bit, about a year and a half to get through school and everything. And, eventually I just decided, especially when I fell in love with the business side of it, um, I really just felt like I just wanted to reach out to people that were in a similar situation that needed to know how to run their businesses.
Hmm.
And, as a technician person, that does just the service work, there there wasn't a whole lot of support, for the business side. And, I said it before, I didn't have any of that. I didn't have, I mean, there was,
Nobody to go to ask for help. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't even know how to Google it. It was just, there's a lot more on the internet now than there was even 5 years ago. Um, I don't know if that answers your question,
No,
but
it does. No, it does.
yeah, it,
And you're married now, but when you were going through it as a single mom, how did you find the support? How did you do it? What tools and techniques did you use to push yourself and stay motivated and just keep going?
that's a hard question.
I told you there were going to be other questions.
That's a hard question. Well, you know,
Well, because
I
I'm just thinking, I'm sure there's other single moms out there, and we learn from hearing other people. So I think it's great. If you're comfortable sharing your story, go ahead, share as much as you want.
yeah, you know, there's several things. I remember when the girls were little and I was just getting established as an esthetician and growing my clientele, before I was at the point of opening up my own business. And there were many days of crying, just completely being, you know, feeling helpless. And another mentor that I have to give a lot of credit to that did help me during those times, was she was actually my boss, and she owned a salon that I worked in. Um, and she also introduced me to like a different way of thinking about, um, just life and business. And, even like back when, what is that book, The Secret, just
Hmm.
thinking positively about things. And really, I had to change the way that I thought about things. I had to think about positive outcomes and praying and lots of journaling. And that has kind of trickled off at times. Like I haven't always done it, but I've come back to it. I hope you can't hear the baby screaming.
No, 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 I don't actually.
I have a
But hey,
sitter
you're
here.
a mom, right?
Yeah, I have
Mine
a
is
sitter
actually
here.
homesick today, so I'm surprised he's not in here yet.
Okay. He's supposed to be asleep till 2,
Oh,
45 more minutes. But anyway, you know, I my one of my best friends, I had to reach out to people. I had to, even though I didn't always feel like I had a support system, there were still a few people, they may not have understood where I was in my journey, personally or professionally, but they were still there for me to reach out to.
yeah.
And I think having a community, and because even after COVID, like during COVID, we moved to a new city. I've been here 2 years,
Okay.
um, had a baby, been staying at home with her. I'm having to redo it all over again and build a new community. And I've needed it, you know.
And I feel like I'm at that point too where I'm starting over because I was diagnosed with breast cancer 5 years ago. I went through that. And then with COVID, having a couple deaths in the family, personal, it's been 5 years since I've really, really worked my business. And I feel like I'm starting over. But I also have that knowledge now of, okay, if I'm having a bad day, I can reach out to this person. I already have things established, but
Yeah.
there are days where, yeah, you feel like you're starting over.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to sales, what are some ways that we could boost sales right away in our business? What have you found that works?
Well, if you're really needing an instant push and you do have clients, let's say, repeat clients, honestly, you can update your pricing. You can do that, and if they love you, they're gonna be okay with it.
Mhm.
um, we don't always want the price increase, but if you're giving value, I'm not saying, multiply it times 10, but even $5. Like it just depends, it depends on the industry and what your services that you offer and how you would do it. But it's an instant boost in sales.
And I think right now everybody is raising their prices. So I think right now it's expected.
Yeah.
Like we just went and got subs last night and it was $33 just for two of us. And I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah,
So yeah, so it's definitely something that everybody's doing because we all have to survive.
exactly.
But I think as a woman, we're always afraid. Are we worth that? So
Right.
what makes you feel like if I want to raise my prices, what can you tell me to feel comfortable doing that?
Well, it goes with trusting yourself. Think, and you can be logical about it and ask yourself, when was the last time you did raise your prices?
Mm,
Has it been 10 years? Yeah, you should raise your prices, even if it's 10 or 15 bucks. Let's say you're hourly or something like that. I guess it just depends. But you know, look around other people that are your competitors, kind of compare pricing to that. And, don't be scared, because if your clients love you and they're willing to stick with you, then they're gonna, within reason, they're gonna be okay with it. And you might weed out the ones you didn't really want anyway.
That's true. I think
Yeah,
with the way that we decide to grow our business, it is getting rid of the people that we either wanted to get rid of ourselves and
yeah,
just couldn't fire
yeah,
our own clients, or it's going to bring in the people that you really want to work with.
yeah. And if you end up getting rid of some clients, this is just kind of an added thing. I had to do this one time, a couple times. I gave them a recommendation,
Mm,
so they weren't left empty-handed, because I don't want to, neglect my reputation, and I want to be able to please everyone, but I can't. So here's this offering.
yeah,
There, that's one way of doing it.
yeah,
Um, but if it's been a while since you've updated your pricing, I think it's expected, like you said.
yeah, especially
Yeah,
nowadays.
yeah.
So, what are some other things that we can do?
Well, call to actions. I think that a lot of times in the digital marketing world, it's obvious you're going to put call to actions on your website, your emails, your social posts, things like that. But in businesses that are face to face, people forget to put them in their conversations.
Mm,
Like, we're meeting, I'm going to introduce you to my product or my service, and then, all right, well, let me know if you want to talk about it sometime. And you never hear from them. You got to not be afraid to ask for the sale,
mm-hmm.
or to ask for the next step in your sales strategy. You just, it takes practice.
Yeah.
All of it does, to remember to do it. Um, if you have a script, insert it in there, that you use when you're talking to clients or writing an email. Just, you always want to have a way that your customer can come back to you for a purchase. You
Mm-hmm.
don't want to leave them empty-handed, or you'll never see them again.
That's true. Yeah. And again, that's something that what is it with women that we're so afraid to?
Yeah,
It seems like it comes so easy for men. And I
yeah,
have gotten better at it, but I'm more comfortable doing it online because then you don't have to see their reaction. They're just reading it and whether they scroll or not. But in person, you're just like you're afraid of what they're gonna say or how they're gonna react.
yeah, yeah. We got to trust ourselves.
Yeah.
And the other thing is too, maybe it's not just the sale, like for a new customer, it's your repeat customers. What is
Hmm.
the next step? Yeah, you don't you never want that circle to stop. You always want to have another step in front, another call to action, even if it's just a follow up, call that doesn't include a price. There is still the next action is there.
Hmm.
So
And what about marketing? What do you do or how do you teach people to market their business?
Well, um, learning all of this on my own, there's a lot. I think unless you absolutely love marketing, you need help.
Yep.
You can't do it on your own. You know, there's so many pieces to it, but I think the key is being consistent, and that's going to separate you from the other businesses out there. If you're constantly, or even if it's not every day, but it is consistently, you're on a schedule, you're putting yourself out there. And I struggle with that. I'm also learning,
I do too, and I'm in social media and I'm consistent for all my clients, but when it comes to my stuff, I'm like, okay, I gotta be more consistent. Yes.
yeah, yeah. That again, it takes practice.
Yeah.
And I think what I've been not really struggling with, but it's more of a reworking, especially since I'm in a transition of still being home with the baby and trying to get back into working and trying to manage my schedule, the limited time that I have to work on it is really just kind of figuring out my calendar
Mhm.
and sticking to it and filling in all the pieces that have to get done. If I can't do it, okay, I'm gonna finally hire somebody to help me do it.
Mhm.
Or, I'm gonna hire babysitters so that I can spend all of every Tuesday writing content so that I can pass that off and, my social media or my email person can do this for me. It has to get done or I am not gonna be consistent
Yeah.
with my marketing. So it's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, and we all struggle. You've been in business for a long time. I have too, and I don't think there is such a thing as work-life balance, but I think trying to find that balance
Yeah,
helps.
yeah,
So, do you have people that you push things off? Because they always say push things or hand delegate what you don't like to do. Is that something that you're starting to do, working on, improving
yeah.
on?
Yeah, I've always done it in my businesses, in management, working in somebody else in the spa or at my own business, and it was easier there because we were built, and as I grew, I would add more people to delegate things, and so I'm starting that all over again. I do have someone. I've had a couple people kind of in and out, but consistently one that is helping me with my content and um, my blog. We're, working on that because, I want to get more people, drive more people to the website. So you'll have more information that you can learn about me, not just go to the website and you're like, okay, I want to give value in different things
Mhm.
to help you in your business, whether you can hire me or not. And so she's been helping me come up with a strategy for that, get it out there, be consistent about it. And now I'm at the point where social media, I need some help there. And
Hello.
at the same time, I I have to put time in my schedule to prospect and look for new clients and
Mhm.
meet with my clients. And if I'm just spending all the time over here, this side's neglecting. Yeah. So it's always a balance. I think the key is knowing when you're off, being aware of when one side is off or the other.
Mhm.
I can tell when my kids need me a little bit more, and I can tell when I've been slacking off over on this side.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's easier for a woman because we can balance so much, but then, yeah, it does get kind of hard as well. So I read your bio, but tell people exactly who you work with, how you help them, what do you do? And then we can talk about maybe you're launching a new product or something. We can get into that.
Okay. Well, okay, so Spa Project, I teach sales strategies to spa owners, the spa owners and the teams, but particularly with sales events. How to, if you've ever, you know, I'm not sure, but let's just say, have you ever seen an open house by a medical spa? They'll have typically they'll have open houses where they might pick a day and you can go by and get a cocktail, and maybe they might have some special pricing that day that they're offering their clients, but it's kind of like a mingling, like, you're kind of in and out kind of thing.
Mhm.
Well, what I do is I turned that into a sales event where you're going to make some money. Let's utilize these customers. And in addition to that, I've got framework for how to package your services together that actually give the client more value and a better result than just discounting for no reason. So there's a couple things with that we work with to kind of just drive more sales. Does that answer that?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Now, are you working with more established medical spas, new medical spas, both?
So I will work with both. Mostly it's more established. You don't want to have a big major sales event if you don't already have the following. But
Mm-hmm.
there are ways to do smaller events that are more focused on this, maybe a single service rather the overall, store.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because some spas may just offer one or two services. Some might have 5 to 10 devices, that different types of lasers, different microneedling, services, the bow tie, they might have a whole realm of things. But really, a place to start is figuring out your pricing and making sure that the ones that are buying, you're making a profit off of that. So, can help break that down for you. And the sales reps are great. They are a huge resource that every spa owner should utilize, um, because they will show up, they will do things for you, but they're there to sell their own products. So they don't, sometimes there's a few things lacking. They give you a ballpark of what to price things at, but packaging your services together in the right way could be a really big thing for your spa. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it can really change how your customer gets a result, um, and the frequency that they come back into your store. You know, so just I really enjoy that part of it, and like helping the spa owners kind of strategize. You know,
Yeah.
the customer's journey, from coming in and how they leave and come back.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what are you getting ready to launch right now? What do you have? What have you already launched, and what are you launching now?
So I recently launched the 5 ways to boost sales free resource, which we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
But I'm getting ready to launch my beta sales event um, launch for clients. So I am looking for a couple of clients who are willing to, go in and be more of like a testimonial for me, case studies. And my project manager is working with me on that. And, I want people to know that this stuff works and that they can have a successful event. And so I'm looking for a couple of people, couple of spa owners that are qualified, that they get a nice rate, if they go to, with my beta launch program. So
Yeah. Tell us more about that program. What's included? What are you helping them with?
well, it's still coming together, but we would have it's 5 like Zoom meetings, and if you're in the area, we could maybe do a few face to face. I'm in the Bowling Green, Nashville, Tennessee area, but it anywhere. Um, so the pre-launch of like planning your business. I mean, your sales event. I'm getting all nervous.
It's okay. Relax. I
Who
know. You
prepares
get
for that?
nervous talking about yourself, right?
I
Talking about
know,
your
yeah,
product. I know.
yeah.
I know.
So yeah, but there's this lots of checklists, social media content calendar. We would do a review of your event at the end. So there's several meetings where it's the marketing, campaign meeting, the pre-event meeting, like who's your, what vendors are going to be there. There's just a lot of details involved. So
Mm-hmm.
it's 5 different meetings, lots of checklists. Um, we'd probably do one of those, team meetings, scheduling, organizing all of your staff for the event. I think that gets left out a lot. People on the day of don't really know what their role is uh,
Mm-hmm.
for helping the customer get to the checkout, register. So it just kind of, I can help them manage all of that.
Okay.
That's what we'll
And when
do.
it comes to launching a sales event for any business, I guess, when should you think about that? And what types of discounts should you provide? Kind of stuff like that.
So I think anytime that you're bringing something new into your business, you definitely want to do either product or service launch.
Okay.
Um, and then if you're kind of, and it's okay if you don't have anything new, I think annually you want to have, sort of this open house kind of feel, but it's a sales event and you want to invite people into your business so that they can, no pressure, learn about your business, and you could do this digitally through a workshop or
That was
something.
going to be my next question. For somebody
Yeah,
who doesn't have a product, I offer
yeah,
services. But yeah,
yeah,
let's finish. If you're in person, what steps should you?
yeah. If you're in person, you want to have a day that you are dedicated to educating about your services. And that's why I meant when I said utilize your sales reps, because they are there to help you, and they'll help educate your clients as well. Um, I think it's really important that you kind of circle back and go, okay, in case you forgot, because I've had were clients of mine for 15 years, and
Hmm.
they didn't know all the services that I offered,
Yeah.
you know. And it can be a lot to throw at someone in one day, but if you do it correctly and strategize their journey into your business and go and meet each, person and talk about this and that, they can get a lot out of it. And then maybe understand the value, because in a spa setting, a lot of the services, are they benefit the other services. So let's just, for example, because I know that this isn't all spa people listening, but if you're going to get like a microneedling or laser treatment, your facials help keep your skin clean and maintained. So when you're getting these bigger services, you're kind of prepped for that. And
Hmm.
then you might want the lower service at the end that helps maintain what the bigger service did.
Gotcha.
And so they all kind of work together, as most of our products do. Um, and it's just kind of teaching the client,
How
that
they work
process. And
together. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that follows through with any industry.
And then what about digitally? So I do have a course that I'm working on redoing because LinkedIn, it's a LinkedIn course and it's definitely updated since I created it 5 years ago. So if somebody has a service or a product digitally, how can you um, do a sales event for that?
So I've seen this done very well, and I'm considering doing it in my own business in the future. Is I've seen like boot camps
Okay.
or a 1-day workshop that's been marketed really well at a very low price point. Because these sales events that these spa owners have are free typically. Sometimes there's a registration fee that can be used towards your purchase, so
Mm-hmm.
that's one way to get them in. But digitally, you might have a low, 25, $50 entry to learn about what what it is that you're offering, but you can incorporate and talk to them about the other things that you offer as well for
Mm-hmm.
that. Because the whole idea is, what's the next step? What's your call
Yeah.
to action? It's the next bigger ticket item. But they've had an opportunity to spend some time with you, that really wasn't a big investment for them other than their time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get, if you did it right, they get hooked and they want the next thing.
And so when it comes to, I think we touched on this being consistent and stuff like that, but when it comes to marketing your business and you are brand new, say, how do you go and find your clients? Because it can't really be word of mouth at the beginning. So how do
Right.
you go and find your clients?
Well, I think you got to do some networking, and that's we did talk about that.
Yep.
I'm in the beginning phase of that and building my network, and not just people that are in the industry, but I think I need to build a network beyond that because people know people in different industries.
Mm-hmm.
They recommend people that they know,
Yeah.
and then that's all over. So I think that you got to start there. And also with the well, I guess that's the same thing, the networking groups, that's another way. Um, and sometimes you just got to cold call. If you need some money, I know,
I hate that so
I
much.
know. Yeah. But what I've been reading and learning about, and I have found true myself, is if that initial conversation is not about your product at all, and it is about the person that you want to get to know to see if your service is good for them,
Mm-hmm.
it comes off a lot easier.
Yeah.
And, then if you're maybe a fit for each other or not, and you can move on to the next step. So that takes practice, but just going in with the mindset of, hey, I just want to learn about your goals for the next year. And I'm not going to tell you about my business, but I want to hear about your goals. You don't have to say it that way, but that's the
Yeah.
gist
Yeah.
of it.
Just to
And
feel comfortable.
know that your mindset is just learning about their goals.
Yeah.
And then you make a separate meeting appointment to talk to them about what you could do for them.
Yeah.
Totally separate.
And now we met online. How have you found digital marketing to work for you? I have a visitor. She's peeking in. That's why I've been a little, Grace,
That's
you
funny.
could come in a second. I'm sorry. So we met online. So how do you find digital marketing to work for you?
I find that when it's not working, you got to still, earn your income. So you got to go out. You'll meet people.
I have two visitors right now at the
They
moment.
want to learn too.
Yeah, she's talking about medical spas and stuff.
Ooh,
So see,
yeah.
there you go. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I've been like I said, when they're not working as quickly as you want them to, doing the live, even in the digital world, if you sell digital services, you can still go and meet somebody face to face,
Hmm.
tell them about your digital
I
service.
always tell people when you're on social media, your goal is to take it off of social media. It's
Yeah.
great to comment back and forth, but that's how we did it. When I was looking for people to interview in my group, we did a Zoom and then I was able to see that, yeah, you were a good fit
Yeah.
and I liked your energy and all that. So it's definitely trying to get it off of social media for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Well, and
oh, go ahead.
you go ahead.
So you moved to where you are now 2 years ago. So how
Yes.
have you taken the time to grow your business there? What have you done? Because you're in new territory now.
Yeah. I just have definitely had to organize my time, and I can hear her
I hear
home.
her now, yeah. That's
Yeah.
okay. We all have kids here.
Yeah.
It's okay.
But it kind of circling back to networking groups. We're in a town of 60, almost 70,000 people,
Okay.
which is, a smaller city, big town, I guess you could say. And then I'm about an hour away from Nashville.
Okay.
So, I can, that my region is territory is going to kind of be out that way.
Mm.
But, calling, trying to set up that coffee date, networking groups. Don't be afraid to get into other cities' networking groups if you're kind of in a tri area or something like that. So that's, next on my list is to join one in Nashville. That there's a Tennessee Connect that I'm really anxious to attend some of their meetings, and get out in front of people. And, um, that has always been the best way that I've met people, because at the end of the day, word of mouth is what you want. The digital part of it just takes a little bit more time,
That's how I've honestly grown my business, is word of mouth from the
yeah,
beginning, from my first client on. And I still have my first client from 12 years ago. So,
yeah,
which is awesome to say that,
yeah.
that you really trust you and want to refer your services. So, how can people get your free resources and how can people get in touch with you?
Well, you can go to spaproject.com to get in touch with me. And you can also go to boostsales.spaproject.com and and download my 5 ways to boost sales in your medical spa in the next 30 days. So you can take that information and use it, in your own way. But it goes into a little bit more detail of what we were talking about, plus a few other action items. So, yeah.
Awesome. So here's how I usually end an interview. What has been one thing you've learned about yourself as a business owner?
That I'm impatient.
I think we all are, yeah.
Yeah. Um,
We want it yesterday.
well, I I think it's, and I don't want this to come off in the wrong way, but that I'm, smarter than I think I am. Like goes back to,
We don't
you know,
trust ourselves, like you said. Yeah.
yeah,
We
yeah,
don't give ourselves a lot of credit and, pat ourselves on the back and all that stuff.
yeah. And, but then I get proven and someone will bring it up and I'm like, oh yeah, I did that. Oh, I forgot I did that. And that's happened so many times. And I needed those little boosts of confidence,
Yeah.
because, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you for doing this. I'm glad we were able to meet through digital marketing. Make sure that when we are done and the video goes up on Facebook, it has been going live. So if you have any questions while watching this back, make sure to tag Emily. But make sure you add your contact information and how people could get in touch with you, as well as your free resources. And thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure, and I
Yes.
appreciate it. Yeah.
And go take care of your baby before she learns to climb out of the crib. Has he or
Okay.
she?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Candy.
okay. Has
Yeah,
she learned to climb out of the crib yet?
not yet. Not yet. I'm
Watch
shocked.
out for
She's good.
that.
Yeah, she's good.
Well, thank you so much, and I hope that we can stay in touch and maybe we could do another interview again.
Absolutely.
All
And
right, thank you.
have a great day.
Bye-bye, you too.